Hello, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. The topic of this video is what causes unhealthy relationship choices and patterns, part 1. Are you stuck in an unhealthy relationship pattern? Do you make the same relationship choices that ultimately lead to the same unhappy conclusions? For example, pointless unresolved conflict, unmet needs, disappointment, trauma, mistrust, betrayal, deepened insecurities and loneliness. Have the majority of your relationships been with essentially the same person, meaning different people with similar issues vis-a-vis their ability or lack thereof to form healthy attachments and relationships? If so, you have a type, and it's unhealthy, possibly self-destructive. Your rational mind knows it's impossible to have mutually satisfying relationships with narcissists, borderlines, and other self-absorbed, irrational, and emotionally immature people. But you keep choosing these people as your partners. So what gives? There's more to it than having a bad picker, which, by the way, is an expression that just doesn't sound right. Bad picker. Don't like it. Thinking back on spouses or ex-spouses, girlfriends or boyfriends, do you recognize a type? And I don't mean brunettes versus redheads, school teachers versus nurses, or drives a pickup truck versus a BMW. I'm referring to personality characteristics, behaviors, attitudes, poor communication skills, the inability to solve problems, the inability to be intimate, hypocritical, cold, asexual, or hypersexual, etc. These qualities and abilities are the important stuff. At least much more important than a mutual passion for windsurfing, enjoying travel, loving to laugh, and the ability to comfortably go from black tie or black dress to blue jeans. Insert eyeball sprain inducing eye roll here. So, what's your dysfunctional type? Maybe you've never thought about this before. That's okay. Take a moment to consider it now. Do you have a habit of choosing women or men who are, and here comes a long bulleted list, unavailable, i.e., either in another relationship or emotionally unavailable, for example, because they're still hung up on a crazy ex? Unfaithful, unreliable, for example, they make empty promises, they break promises, they disappear, then they reappear, then they disappear, then they reappear, then you get the idea. Who are unpredictable. And I don't mean showing up with a bouquet of tulips and your favorite Hefeweizen out of the blue, okay? Emotionally abusive, physically abusive, financially exploitative, emotionally manipulative. For example, they engage in guilt trips or shaming. Who are arrogant, insecure and have low self-esteem, possessive or jealous, controlling, explosive in anger, uninterested in you and the things that matter to you, dismissive of your feelings and needs, self-absorbed and selfish, still involved in other relationships. For example, they're still fighting with an ex-spouse or partner. Who are dependent or the I don't need anyone type. Who are emotionally distant or walled off. Jealous, unable to commit, unable to express or give and receive love. Personality disordered, mentally ill, emotionally unstable, emotionally immature, dishonest. Who are addicts or alcoholics, emotionally troubled, professional victims. Who are too quick to begin relationships and then end them just as quickly. emotionally intense, yet emotionally shallow, i.e., running hot or cold or prone to extreme highs and lows, or who are insecure or avoidant. And I'm talking about attachment style. Now, imagine talking to a friend who asks you to describe a new love interest. Would you be gushing over any of these qualities I just listed off? I hope not. Although that would be a funny skit. Oh my gosh, I just met the most amazing woman on Tinder last week. She's emotionally labile, financially irresponsible, a pathological liar, has 12 other dudes orbiting her, and looked at her phone continuously throughout our date. She's not technically hot, but she was nice to me and told me I'm the most amazing man she's ever known in under 3 days. I'm totally head over heels. Well, think about it. Isn't that who you've gushed over in the past? You gush over the false self or mask of the person you think you've met, the person they want you to believe they are, the person you want them to be. If you've dated multiple versions of women or men with similar issues, please consider that you're the other common denominator in this unhealthy pattern. Yes, they're awful, but you keep falling for them, dating and or marrying them. In another instance of sometimes you find the best quotes in the strangest places, I'll share one from Big Little Lies Season 2. None of us really see things as they are. We see things as we are. In my experience, this is especially true of codependents and personality disordered individuals who project onto each other during the love bombing stage. Healthier people project and then withdraw their projections after the honeymoon stage ends. And in non-pathological relationships, the honeymoon stage is the is the non-pathological version of the very pathological love bombing stage. However, the discrepancies between who the individuals really are versus the idealized projections are far less extreme. In other words, there's still a strong resemblance to the projected idealized partner. For example, he's still the same great guy, but now you know he burps. His boxer shorts land on the floor around the hamper, not in the hamper. And for some reason, he collects rubber ducks. Actually, I used to have a rubber duck collection. Long story, don't need to get into it now. It's different when codependents and the disordered withdraw their projections. The false selves are vastly different from their authentic selves, sometimes to the point that the borderline or narcissist looks physically different once the illusion dissolves. Clients have reported this phenomenon to me, and I experienced it as well in my past relationship. There was a moment where I looked at this guy I'd been with for over 7 years, and I physically didn't recognize him. He looked physically different. And of course, the NPD or BPD accuses you of having changed once you see through their false self to the broken, bitter, angry child underneath the mask. Mom? Dad? Not again. Or repeating past relationships in the present. If you're stuck in a dead-end relationship pattern with the same type of person, it's likely because you're recreating earlier relationships from childhood or adolescence. Until you achieve some clarity regarding your choice of romantic partners, you'll tend to be attracted to and attract the same kind of person because it feels familiar, especially if it recreates the intense emotional highs and lows of a dysfunctional family of origin. These people feel familiar due to your early childhood and adolescent relationship experiences. It's what you know. Perhaps you don't realize that there are other ways to be in a relationship. Or perhaps you've had the opportunity to date healthier women and men, but found them boring or not as exciting. If your type is dysfunctional and crazy, there are healthier partners and relationships to be had. People who are open to relationships and will value you rather than shut you out, reject you, exploit you, ignore you, or, in extreme cases, demean and abuse you. However, you'll first need to begin getting your issues in order so the familiarity of the toxic and dysfunctional feels bad, i.e., not exciting, and healthier and functional feels refreshingly, wonderfully good. In my Dating Again series, available in both written format and video, I discuss common secondary gains related to repeating unhealthy relationship patterns and secondary losses related to becoming healthier and having healthier relationships. Secondary gains and losses are unconscious motivators that reinforce old self-sabotaging, self-destructive, self-defeating attitudes and behaviors. Sometimes people have a conscious awareness of them. More often than not, though, people are unaware of the secondary gains and losses that keep them stuck. How can you tell if your choices are shaped by secondary gains and losses? This is a pretty easy way to do so. Your rational mind wants to become healthier and have healthier relationships, but you keep falling for hopelessly damaged, toxic, and/or personality disordered women or men. This is often an indication that your unconscious emotional child self is in conflict with your conscious, rational adult self. I'm going to repeat that, okay? This is important. It's an important distinction, so please think about this. It's an indication that your unconscious emotional child self is in conflict with your conscious, rational adult self. The conscious, rational adult mind knows relationships with someone who's self-absorbed, selfish, emotionally immature, cruel, dishonest, avoidant, or choose your favorite dysfunction simply won't work. On the other hand, the unconscious emotional child self believes you can make it work with someone who's like dear old demented mom or dad if you just try harder and become more or enough. When you're stuck in a toxic relationship pattern, it's often because you're trying to get a different outcome in your adult relationships than you had in childhood with your parents and other adults who hurt you or didn't meet your needs. This is why you choose partners who are no more capable of meeting your needs and loving you than your parents, family, or your first intimate relationship partners were. Now, before I go on to the next section, I encourage you to rewind or whatever it is you do on the YouTube monitor, or go to the list in the printed article, and you'll find the link in the description of the video below, and review the list of dysfunctional traits that I just went through a moment ago. Which of these characteristics describe your mom and or dad? Are they the same ones your spouses, girlfriends, and boyfriends possess? If they'd shown you those qualities instead of love bombing you, would you have pursued a relationship with them? Now, some people get hung up on but they didn't seem like that in the beginning. Well, yes, that's the false self. That's the mask. They're pretending to be better than they are to seduce you, okay? Where people get tripped up is on, well, they're not exactly like my mother or father, but there are some similarities. And so how does that all work? So think of it this way. Parents have absolute power and control over their kids. Thus, screwed up moms and dads don't have to love bomb their children. Children are captive audiences. You don't have to seduce them when they are your own children, okay? As children, we revere our parents. even incredibly abusive ones. So again, no wooing is necessary. Parents are gods to their kids. And as an aside, some toxic parents love bomb their kids as part of a parental alienation campaign, but that's a separate topic, and I'm not going to address that here. Typically, codependents are susceptible to love bombing because you think you're getting the opposite of your crazy, cruel, disinterested, cold mom or dad. And then, surprise, mom, dad, not again. When the love bombing stops, it's emotionally jarring. The mask of the false self comes off, and it's another version of your parents. Instead of accepting reality, codependents will often blame themselves. What happened? What did I do wrong? What do I need to do to return to being flattered, loved up, and feeling special? There's nothing you can do. You were conned. You thought you were getting the opposite when, in reality, it's just more of the same. Then you fall into the old childhood role of trying to fix your messed up parent and then adult partner. Forget the Oedipus complex, it's the Sisyphus complex. You keep pushing that boulder uphill only to have it crush you on its descent to the bottom, over and over and over again. Now I want to talk about self-sabotaging relationship beliefs. So what creates the elements of secondary gains and losses? The faulty self-defeating beliefs you learned as a child about yourself, relationships, and your role in relationships. These beliefs inform the secondary losses and gains the unconscious emotional child self fears. They are obstacles to having the kind of relationship your conscious, rational adult mind wants. Whether you're aware of them or not, these beliefs shape your relationship choices. The following are some of the more common faulty relationship beliefs learned in dysfunctional families that I personally have experienced and that I've seen in my clients. Okay. You have to work hard to earn someone's love. You can't just be who you are and be loved. So you become the hero, the knight in shining armor, the nice guy, the good girl, the cool girl, or Mr. or Ms. Helper. Try not to say that in Sam Kinnison's voice. Back to school reference for those of you who don't know. You have to prove that you're good enough in order for someone to love you. You must be perfect to be loved. Love is suffering and longing. It's your job to make a partner happy. Your feelings, needs, and rights are secondary to your partner's. You have to go along with, like, or agree with everything your partner likes or wants, or you'll lose them. You need to ignore or hide your needs and feelings in order to meet all of your partner's needs. Being honest about your feelings, wants, and needs will result in pain, rejection, and or rage. If someone loves you, they should be able to read your mind or intuit how you're feeling and what you want without having to tell them. Your partner should be able to meet all your needs. Your partner should enjoy doing all the things you do and like all of the same people you like. Your partner should prove he or she cares by spending money on you and paying for trips, dinners, and gifts. If someone really loves you, there will never be any conflict. If people rely on you and need you, they won't leave you. Oh, God, bunny rabbits, sorry. If you try hard enough, you can fix someone into being nice to you and loving you. Do any of these statements resonate with you? Do you understand why they're screwed up and unhealthy? Do they reflect the relationship choices you've made or the exes who chose you? What are healthier and more functional opposites to these faulty beliefs? Okay, now the next section is stop shoulding all over yourself. That's should, S-H-O-U-L-D, YouTube demonetization freaks. Didn't say a bad word. Stop shoulding all over yourself. Self-destructive beliefs about the self. And for anyone who's interested, stop shoulding on yourself is an expression coined by cognitive behaviorist Albert Ellis, who was quite the cranky curmudgeon in the field of psychology. Cranky Uncle Al. Okay, he pioneered rational emotive therapy. Again, that's just for your information if you have any interest in that. In addition to faulty relationship beliefs, negative beliefs about the self are also extremely problematic in one's capacity to form healthier relationships. Whenever we make statements that use the words should, always, must, never, or have to, it usually means we're placing unreasonably high expectations on others and ourselves. Then, this leads to anger, disappointment, hurt, and frustration, which makes it difficult to have healthier relationships. A faulty relationship belief system reinforces your fears and self-doubts and perpetuates poor relationship choices. If you think so little of yourself, you'll likely continue to attract people who will treat you poorly. Or, and this is very important, even worse, you will reject healthier women and men who won't mistreat you because you think there's something wrong with them for seeing value and worth in you. I'm going to repeat this. Think about this. Even worse, you'll reject healthier women and men who won't mistreat you because you think there's something wrong with them for seeing value and worth in you. Common self-defeating beliefs include, I'm unlovable. No one would love me if they really knew me. I'll eventually be rejected, so I'll protect myself by pushing others away first. I don't deserve love. Nothing ever works out for me. I'm cursed. I'm not good enough for a healthier person. I'm not attractive enough. She's fast enough. I'm not good enough for a healthier person. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not thin enough, tall enough, muscular enough, petite enough, etc. I'm not smart enough. I'm too damaged. I don't make enough money. I'm not interesting enough. There's something wrong with me, something invisible that nobody sees and everybody sees. Or I never get anything good or can't have good things. Sound familiar? Are these the thoughts and sentiments that have become a familiar refrain in the cavern of self-defeating self-torture and despair, trademarked, where the Grey Goose flows and the Ella Fitzgerald Cole Porter songbook plays on an endless loop? Well, that's where I still occasionally go when someone in the present is crappy to me in ways that my parents and past partners were crappy in the past, at least for a little bit. Until I remember to remind myself that someone else's crappiness toward me is about their stuff, not me. This is one of those hurts that I don't know ever entirely goes away for codependents and the trauma bonded. It may always remain the initial emotional reflexive response. It is possible to snap oneself out of it much more quickly, shake it off, and get back on the proper mental track, however. At least it is in my experience. Now think about it. Who first made you feel and believe these things about yourself? You weren't born into this world feeling and thinking this garbage. None of us are. It's put into your head by the kind of parents who dump their issues onto their children to carry for them. These beliefs and fears also arise from observing your parents' marriage and by how they treated you. These were not relationship role models, okay? Consequently, you choose partners who treat you in familiar, similar ways, which reinforces your negative beliefs about yourself. One way to correct this is to stop yourself when these thoughts occur, reality test, and replace them, replace the negative statements with loving, positive self-statements. How can you realistically expect to feel good about yourself and have confidence in your ability to be an attractive partner to others with this kind of self-defeating nonsense floating around in your head? You can't. This is why it's essential to identify, disrupt, and replace these old beliefs with healthier new ones. If you don't, you allow what happened to you way back when to control your here and now. You don't have to allow your adult life and the course of your adult relationships be defined by what happened to you in the past. You can take control of your life as an adult. You don't have to be dependent on the approval of toxic people who aren't any more likely to give it to you than your parents were. Let go of the old beliefs and adopt new and healthier ones. In some ways, it's like flipping on a light switch in your mind. When you do this, you may see some things from the past and or not so distant past or present that you'd rather not deal with. But these fears and beliefs will continue to control you and lead you to make poor relationship choices if you don't. All of these things are fully under your control. Unlike trying to change or fix others, which is impossible, so stop doing that. In part 2, I'll discuss self-defeating problem-creating behaviors and self-destructive relationship beliefs and attitudes versus healthier beliefs and behaviors, so do check back. Again, I'm Dr. Tara Palmatier of shrinkformen.com. If you have a question or would like to schedule a session with me, you can reach me at shrinkformen@gmail.com. Thank you for watching and have a good day.